This video is regarding private equity. So if you're not interested in private equity, then just keep scrolling. But the other day, my company, I was contacted by a private equity company that was seeking to buy us. They said, "Hey, we'd like to talk to you about buying your company, etc. We want to move into that space, etc." So I'm like, "All right, I'll listen to anything," which is true. That's actually kind of my nature. I'll listen to anything. Now, I may not do it. My answer may be no, and probably 90% of the time, my answer is going to be no. But I will listen to it and I'll entertain the idea. So they set up a Zoom meeting, or the equivalent of a Zoom meeting, and we do this whole thing. And it is two, younger guys. One's a Gen Z guy, and one is a millennial. This isn't a generational thing. This is just what happened. And every buzzword, was used. I've been in business for those of you who don't know, I've been in business for like 35 years. And for a good chunk of that, I was a pawnbroker. So I've heard every story and I've seen just about every scam that there has ever existed. I mean, you don't be in that business as long as I was in it and not pretty much deal with everything at some point. So, and then of course, there's a lot of carryover into other businesses, because I think I've been involved in something like, I'd have to be reminded, but probably 28 to 30 different business models in my career. So, which is a lot, and there's a lot of carryover to those. The core concepts change, but there's a lot of carryover. Okay, and business owners know what I'm talking about. I mean, like a lot of the same principles apply. Business to business, doesn't make any difference what model you're in. Anyway, every $25 resume word was used in this conversation by these guys. The only thing was missing was the word synergy. I didn't hear the word synergy. And what this came out to be, so for business owners out there, a few of you follow me. There's a few, like 5 or 6 of you business owners that actually do follow my work here. And it turned out to be something like, hey, what we'll do is we're gonna buy your business for like $100, which that's not gonna happen. And then we'll own it on paper. And then what we're gonna do is take control of all the financials. And he said it without saying it, but he's like, we're gonna pump up all these numbers to the point of ridiculous. And then batch it together with all of the other small businesses that we're able to, on paper, purchase. Sort of like what they've done in HVAC. Okay, I mean, so some of you don't know that, but I mean, like, look up what's happened in HVAC. And then we're going to then package all of it in like 3 to 5 years and then sell it to a buyer. And then you'll get this big payout at the end. At the end of this rainbow, there's this huge pot of gold for you. In the meantime, you still give us, a chunk of your profits, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You still run the business, you still do everything without a salary. Like, sorry, how am I benefited by this? If you want to buy the business, there's a number in my head, and if you guess it, you win. You get to write a check, and you can just buy the business and take everything and go do it yourself. And I'll stick around, along with the rest of my staff. We'll stick around for, 6-8 months to transfer the business over to you, and that's free of charge. We would just do that as part of the deal, but we're not going to just give you everything and then let you load the company with a bunch of debt, which is inevitably what will happen, because I think that's all anybody knows how to do in business nowadays. They don't know how to produce anything. All they know how to do is just keep borrowing more money and going deeper into debt. Okay, that's the stock market. That's GDP, etc. That's just let it ride until it makes it everybody else's problem except yours. This is what private equity does. This is the kind of thing that happens. And so my answer is obviously no. But I'm listening to all of this, and I'm like, this is basically the last episode of King of the Hill. For those of you who saw the newest season of King of the Hill, there's like the last episode where this is like the main plot line. This is exactly what happens. This is effectively just gambling, and it usually doesn't work out well for the people who actually run the business. Now, of course, in the TV show, they had a business model, but they didn't really have any business. They weren't really doing anything. They were just doing what everybody else does. Pretend to be in business. The Entertainment 720 or whatever the hell it was on that Parks and Rec. It's like, what do you guys do? We don't know. do you know what your job is here? No, not really. That's a lot of businesses, believe it or not. That's a lot of startups. It's really strange from an actual. I don't call myself a CEO. I don't like titles like that. But from an actual principal position, like 99% of this stuff is completely ridiculous and it's a scam. So, and my other business owners out there will know what I'm talking about because you've probably been contacted with similar types of gimmicks. So for you younger people that are looking to go into some kind of real business, let me just disabuse you of the idea of some messiah from on high calling you and saying, we want to give you a bunch of money. Yeah, I would ask a lot of questions. And if you don't know what to ask, then you need to find people who do. You need to find advisors who actually do understand. I'll give you an example. Let me play both sides. And just this is the teaching part of this now. Let me play both sides of this. If somebody contacted me and said, we want to buy your business, I would say, okay, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 50 million. Guess it and you win the company. You get to write a check for that amount of money, right? Now, so let's say that they guess the right number and I go, congratulations, you have just won purchasing my company. So go ahead and write a check for that. If I were their advisor, let me play their side. If I were their advisor, I would be telling them, I think you're out of your mind to write a check that large for a company that doesn't have a lot of assets. There isn't a lot of real estate involved. And of course, real estate is way overvalued, like way overvalued at this point. So my strong suggestion would be that you not do something like this. You are better off using that money to just build your own business. Or if you're writing a check with that many commas in it, you probably should just go do something else. Why don't you just go windsurfing or something like that, or go parasailing, or any one of a million other things that you could think of, then do this. Like, why would you do something like this? So that would be if I was advising them. On the other side, I would be advising, dude, if you've got a fool that's willing to pay you that much money, man, take the money and run, right? So this is, you see what I'm saying? Like you have to be able to think like this. And so, I know that some of you, if you make it this far in the videos, some of you follow me for my economic analysis. But the economic analysis that I give isn't from the university system at all. It's from the business person. I'm first and foremost a businessman who happens to understand all of the economic issues that go along with it. And so, but I don't, so anyway, these young guys weren't really ready for someone like me to kind of listen to this. But it's like, you're not really offering me anything. You're just offering me a payday someday, maybe in the future, possibly, assuming you haven't loaded my company with endless amounts of debt, and assuming that you actually have a buyer on the other end of this, which you probably don't. So in other words, you weren't really interested in buying my company. You were interested in basically brokering the company through in about 3 to 5 years. So, word of the wise for my business owners out there, that scam is coming for you. And it doesn't make any difference how blue your collar is. They're going to come after you because they think that you don't know what the hell you're doing. So, heads up.